there'll be some quite good people with Trump, I think, who will be looking to do that. Obviously, trying to cut government spending, hopefully with Elon Musk and an efficiency commission or efficiency
Yeah.
department. Certainly lowering taxes of various sorts. And they certainly recognize, sometimes, Trump's kind of like not as clear sometimes on, what monetary policy is, but I think, certainly he recognizes, the Fed's printed a lot of money, since in particular since 2020. And actually, unlike say some of the other central banks, haven't it ratcheted back as much as some of the other Western countries have. They've done it some, but not as, particularly M0, for instance, they've, ratcheted that back to some extent.
You mean the
But
money
not as,
base, do you?
yeah, sorry. Yeah, money supply M0 in particular, which is kind of the, the more very central bank oriented calculation as, whereas you start bringing in the banks and stuff, you start going to, M1, 2, 3. Um, so, but if you look at what they've unwound compared to like what Volcker had to do in the 80s, it's, whoa, so in the meantime, they better get some pretty pro growth, greater private sector policies, which can, that can also offset, a lot of that. And thus, I guess, um, there might be less reason or need to unwind some of that, money supply, although they will have to deal with it to some extent. And, there'll be a fight, I think, because Trump definitely wants a new head of the Federal Reserve, and the current person said he's not going to resign. So
Yeah.
that should be an interesting battle. I don't know how that's going to play out exactly. I mean, that's not very good. I mean, if the new president, because the chairman is definitely a political appointee, everybody knows that. So, that's, it's it's not good. That's pretty bad form, or worse. For the chairman to say blatantly, I'm not gonna leave, even though the new president doesn't want me.
Right, okay. I'm trying to remember the history. Was Powell
They don't do
appointed by Trump in the first place?
they don't do that. If the new president wants you to go, you go.
Mm, right, so he wants Powell
That's a
to.
convention.
Yes, yes. So it's interesting what you're saying. I mean, yeah, clearly they have to unwind. I mean, keep shrinking the Fed balance sheet. Now, that is a quantitative tightening, so to speak. That's what I think how they're describing it. Now, I thought the impression I got is that the concerns are that Trump would want to interfere. He'd want to interfere with the Federal Reserve and more likely, and then under Trump, we would have easier monetary policy, wouldn't we? Because Trump would want to keep interest rates low to keep to promote economic growth. So isn't the concern under Trump that we would end up with higher inflation and hence higher interest rates?
Well, look, that concern to some extent, is I think legitimate because Trump hasn't been, he's not Ron Paul, right? He's not.
Yeah.
I think like a pretty clear stance on money printing and sound money and all that.
Mm.
He's sometimes kind of been there, and other times he's kind of easy money. Um, but look, it depends on what the demand for money is. So if the economy takes off, you can kind of, to some extent, not have to unwind the money supply to the same extent or tighten things up. Um, I would dismiss every president has a big influence a bigger influence on monetary policy than people really quite realize. All the they're like I said, the chairs are political appointees. Yellen was not going to be doing something vastly different from what the presidents that she was under wanted, right? I mean, they're nominally independent, but it's semi-independent, right? So I don't think Trump's any different from Biden or Obama or anybody else. He's not going to come in and be something. Oh, wow, that's different. He's going to try to influence the Federal Reserve. They all have, right? They've all have
Mm.
done that.
Right.
But I think I think, the big difference, whether he's kind of not going to be, if he's going to be not that different on monetary policy from the Biden administration, he's going to be vastly different on his pro growth policy. He's obviously he's going to be expecting the private sector to be the one who drives growth, where the Biden administration expected government to grow. And okay, you can kind of get away with that in the GDP statistics because government's such a huge chunk of those statistics, but it's smoke and mirrors. Government doesn't create its own wealth, so whereas, and also if you want to say inflation, well, see what happened in the first administration with Trump. CPI didn't grow very much at all. So I expect that to be the case under Trump as well.